everyone, I'm Sierra from Magic Within Words, and this is going to be my video all about the books that I read in February. So we're just going to go ahead and get started, and the first book that I read is actually Alan Wake. And so Alan Wake is actually a 2010 adventure action video game. And so the whole premise of the video game, from what I learned from my boyfriend, was that Alan Wake, he's an author. And so him and his wife go to Bright Falls to just unwind and help him with this writing process because he's been struggling for a little bit. And so when they get to town, weird things start to happen. His wife actually ends up going missing, and he has some issues with his memory of what's going on. Also, there is a killer on the loose from his manuscript that he doesn't remember writing. And everything from his manuscript starts to come to life while he's in Bright Falls. So it really follows that whole situation of what's going on with the town, what's going on with him, why are his characters from his stories in real life, what's going on with that. And so from what I learned, the video game really just goes like in depth of all of that. And there's actually like two video games. So it's Alan Wake and Alan Wake 2. And those elements in the video games are just hyper detailed. Like they actually have a band that makes music for them. The music is in there. There's actual actors in it. They have like commercials detailed in it. It's crazy, wild. I watched them play the game. It's something else, I would say. But just from like the book perspective, I was shocked that they were going to put it into a book. But me and him talked about it, just the fact that, you know, because Alan Wake is a writer, he's an author, they're probably going to put it into a form of a book. So that's when they came out with the actual book. And so, coming from a reader, you wouldn't expect this, but coming from a reader, I think it could have been into a movie. I know, a little bit controversial, but I believe it could have been better as a movie than a book. But I understand the whole point of making it into a book because Alan Wake is an author. But it's just like so hyper detailed, and so it was kind of hard trying to navigate what was going on and just like the different characters and the important roles that they play. And it was a lot going on in the book. I mean, but it was actually good. It's very fast paced, you know, versus the video game that you actually have to go through several rounds to actually complete it and actually navigate the story a little bit more, plus those details of the commercials in there. So it's a little bit more theatrical, I would say, a little bit more detail, a lot more fun. I can see that the creators really got a lot into it. They really love what they were creating, and I admire them for that. But yeah, just the book was it was good. It was fast paced. Could have been made into a movie, but still, I get the whole point of it, of doing that. But it wasn't a bad read. I wouldn't say that. But I would say if you're familiar with the video game, you might want to check out the book. Or if you're not familiar with the video game, check out the video game first, because I feel like if you're just reading the book on its own, you'll get a little bit confused on what's going on and who's who and what's their importance in just like in the story in general. So that's my take on it. And the next book I actually read, I don't have it here actually, but I did read it. I listened to it. I listened to it on my Audible, and it's The Girl That Lived Twice. I'll probably put a picture up here somewhere. And with that story, I've actually put it on my Instagram, and I was talking to someone in the comments about it. And she was telling me that the actual original author, Stieg Larsson, I actually have the first book here. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. The first author, Stieg Larsson, he wrote the books, but then another author picked them up, I think when Stieg passed away, if I believe correctly. And so with The Girl Who Lived Twice, it was pretty much a different author continuing the stories from Stieg Larsson. And here is my review of it. Very detailed, but also still very, very confusing. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of subplots going on and just everywhere. But before I get into any more detail, I should actually give you like the premise of the book and what it's actually about. So The Girl Who Lived Twice is pretty much follows Michael Blomkvist. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. He actually comes across papers about a man who died, but there is no paperwork on him. There's no records, no like social security number, nothing about this man who just passed. And so he actually gets the help from Lisbeth, but he can't seem to find her. But he's trying to navigate what happened to this man, who is this man, where did he come from. And so the story kind of follows different characters plus him, and just everyone who could possibly connected to this man. And some of these characters have seen the man, have interacted with him, or maybe they're talking to other people who've talked to other people about the man. So it's a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different characters. That's where I struggled with it. It's just trying to navigate who is who, what's their importance, and what was the purpose of them talking about each part in the book. It was a little bit extra. But I would say it was a pretty decent book. It took a long time to get through. It didn't really pick up for me until like the last 2 hours into my Audible. I know, it took a long time, but I stuck through it. At first, I was gonna mark it as a DNF, but I was like, I have 2 hours left. Let me just go ahead and do it. Just knock it out. It took me 2 days because I just do an hour each morning when I do like my morning stuff with my family. But yeah, it was okay. Very, very hard to follow, but then when it did pick up, that's when I was like, oh, okay, trying to understand who this man was and the certain things that he was talking about. I thought it was gonna be like more like like spiritual, like in the end of what was going on, but it became like very obvious of what the man was talking about and the whole lead up to his death. So it kind of like everything came together at the end. So I did appreciate that it was like actually neatly tied up with the storyline of finding him, what was going on with him, his past. So I like that aspect of it too, because if it was just we don't know what happened to him, he might have died up here, who knows, just like very vague ending, I feel like it would have made me mad and I would have been extremely pissed off. But I thought it was pretty good. I would probably give it like 3 stars just to keep, just keep it at a level. That's what I would give it at. But the next book is one of my favorite books because it's by one of my favorite authors that I found last year. She's freaking amazing. And that book is actually Beasts of War. So I'll put the picture up here. I don't have it. I did it through Audible again because I was like anticipating the Audible release coming out. And so I think I marked like notify me or something. I think I did, or at least I saw that it was like coming out. So I was like, ooh, yes, Ayana Gray is going to come out with another one. This is going to be great. And so when I went to my Audible account and when I went to go start The Girl Who Lived Twice, actually, I saw the book pop up. So I said, okay, bet I'm going to read this book first. So I was reading it more than I was reading The Girl Who Lived Twice. So probably a little bit biased. But Beasts of War, it follows Coffee and Ekon. If you're not familiar with the first 2 books, I actually have them right over here. Let me grab them. So the first one was Beasts of Prey and then Beasts of Ruin. And so it's all about Coffee and Ekon, two teenagers navigating their magical world in Lucosa. And so Coffee was actually an indentured beast keeper in Lucosa for the Night Zoo. That's what happens in the first book. And Ekon, he is training to be a warrior for the Sons of the Six. And so it goes from they're both going on their own journeys to complete disaster. And then with Beasts of Ruin, it kind of just keeps going on their journey of what is going on between them. And so now Ekon is not a Sons of the Six. Kofi is not in Lucosa anymore. And so in the last one that I read in Beasts of War, they are going through it. I would say going through it. Ekon finally gets his footing in with a group of people. I forgot the name of it. Of the group of people that he has been traveling with since the second book. And then Kofi, Kofi's been through it too. And so now Kofi actually has more splendor in her than she's ever had before. She's taken on the splendor from a creature from in the first book. If you haven't read it, I won't spoil it for you, so go ahead and read the first one first. But Kofi is now trying to navigate what it's like to have all this extra power in her, and Ekon is kind of battling his own he's battling his own things of just like what's going on in his head, you know, liking two different girls, but also trying to help Kofi, trying to release the power that she has. Their whole point is for them to release this power before what was his name? Fedu. Sorry, there you go. So Kofi and Ekon, they're trying to release this power before Fedu can get to her, because he's trying to use her in a ritual so he can get all the power for himself. So the second book kind of followed that journey of them trying to get away from Fedu. And in this one, they're away from him now, but they're still trying to find that place that they have to go to release all of the splendor, so he can't get to Kofi, so he can't use the splendor for himself. And so in Beasts of War, they actually start to go on different adventures and finding different gods and goddesses who are related to Fedu to help them stop Fedu from getting the power. So they go to all of the different siblings and have all those different experiences of what their lives are like as gods and goddesses in those different areas, and different creatures in those areas, and how they kind of impact them and what they're going through. So it's very, very high stakes, very high, just a lot of adventure, and also a lot of fear too, because I think of Beasts of Prey, the trilogy in general, as very fantasy based, obviously, but also there's some like scarier elements, not scary as in like bad, but as in like African mythology, things that you may not know or understand. So it kind of takes on different forms of what you think certain characters or what magic could be like. And so it's kind of different for each story, for each book, and for each character of what they're going through. But one of my favorite things about the series, and my favorite thing about Beasts of War specifically, is how they navigate the story in general, of how they have, like, the first part is about somebody from like way back when, and you know the character's going to be important because otherwise they wouldn't be in the story. But the whole purpose is to lead it slowly back to what the present day is, and how that character kind of helps them and influences them in the story and the plot line. And so with Beasts of War, it was very well done. I loved all of the characters. I love all the characters anyway. I've read the other two books, obviously. Everything about Ayana Gray's series, this trilogy, is freaking amazing. Like, the magic element is, I love it. I love a magic element. That's something that I really love. Just African mythology in general too. That's something that I'm really getting into, something that I'm very interested in. And just having more black characters, you know, I just want like an all black character cast type of thing, and reading more black authors in general too. That's just something that I am trying to do more of. And so I just love seeing everything that Ayana had like in her head and see it all come to life through the trilogy. And I can actually see like the woods, I can see the forest, I can see everything that she's creating. Like, I can visualize it very, very well. I believe these would be fantastic movies. That's just my opinion. I believe it could be freaking fantastic. So if you can't tell, love Beasts of War, love Beasts of Prey, love Beasts of Ruin. I would definitely give it I'll give it like 7 out of 5 stars, because let's be honest, it's freaking amazing. So So those are the books that I actually officially read. But I have 2 books that are in progress, so hopefully I can get to it. I have like 4 more days. 4 more days. Yeah, 4 days. We actually have 29 days this month. So I have Crazy Rich Asians. I know I'm behind. It was like a big craze about Crazy Rich Asians as it was coming out in theaters and everything, and then all the award shows. I'm not familiar with them. I'm not trying to become familiar with all the award shows. I think some of them are a scam. Anyway, but I heard great, amazing things about the movie. I heard amazing things about the book, and I'm out. I'm not even halfway through. We'll see if I can finish it. Let's be honest. But so far, I like it so far. It's very fast paced. A lot of different characters, a lot of different things going on. So I'm just trying to follow that a little bit better. Maybe it's because I'm so used to just following one character that having like multiple POVs and just like a lot of different characters. Like each chapter is about a different character, so it's kind of hard to navigate how they connect to Nick and how they connect to the story. So it's kind of like, okay, all right, who is this person? All right, I get a little information, but then still I'm like, okay, can we get back to like the main storyline, please? Because I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the connection just yet. I'm only like 112 pages in, so maybe it'll all connect a lot more later on into the book. So I have high hopes for that anyway. And the last book that's in progress is London After Midnight. And it's just a collection of stories about London and the streets of London during specific time periods. So some short stories in here are kind of like related to like the plague. Some of them are more related to like the murders that went on. Which one was it? So yeah, it's just really like short stories in here. Like I see there you have like the whole, obviously the content section. I didn't see that, but it's just a lot of different stories about London and different murders, different like stories during that time period, the different time periods in London, and just I would say its impact on London in general. So like some of the places they mention are like Buckingham Palace, Westminster Abbey, and Big Ben, in other different locations too, all about the dark side of London. That's really what it's saying, like the dark side of London. So like Jack the Ripper, that's what I forgot his name was, Holmes Baker Street, is it Penrose, Park Lane, Scotland Yard. So a lot of stuff is about like the landscape of crime and criminology in London during that time. And some short stories are by like Agatha Christie, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Dorothy L. Sayers. I'm not familiar with everybody, but I'm familiar with Agatha Christie. So yeah, I mean, I went to London before, so I'm a little bit familiar with some of the things going on, like Jack the Ripper. But some of the other things in there are going to be something new for me. So I'm really looking forward to just reading more about London, the crimes, the criminology, like you said, the crimes and the criminology, and just what went on, because there was a lot that went on in London, and so it's going to be very fascinating to read. But yeah, those are my books for 2023 in February. I mean, not 2023. Wow. Those are my books for February, and the books that I have in progress for the rest of the month. We'll see if I get to them. If not, we'll just carry them on over to March, and we're just gonna call it what it is. But that's all that I have for you all. So thank you for tuning into my YouTube video. You can follow me here on YouTube. You can subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Instagram at Magic Within Words. I'll put all of my handles for Instagram, Threads, and Pinterest down in the description box. And you can also follow me on my blog. If you want to subscribe there, you can too. I can put that here, and I'll also put it down in the description box below. But until then, I'll see you next time. If there are any books that you finished in February. If you want to add them in the comments below, that'd be great. We can share with each other of just what we read, books that people can add to their TBR for next month or even for the rest of the year. You know, just keeping in mind of what's out there. All right, until then, bye.